If you don't qualify for any of the 9 or so exemptions in Obamacare, can you avoid it? Can you avoid the individual mandate? It's impossible for the IRS to determine if you are health insured if you don't file a tax return. But we have to pay our taxes, Chris. Of course, we have to pay taxes. But do we have to pay more than we are legally liable for? And do we have to pay a tax return every year? Two very important questions we need an answer to. It's funny how every single person will throw at me the old, you gotta pay your taxes line, and never include a lawful statute. The reality is, there is no, quote, federal income tax. Title 26 is a series of taxes. Do a search Title 26 for the phrase tax on, and you will get about 377 results, including tax on non resident aliens, tax on corporations, and there is no tax in Subtitle A on the labor of Americans in their everyday work. Ever hear that on TV from your tax professionals? Subtitle C is a different story, but I'll get into that. But does the law actually say that every American has to file a 1040 tax return every year? Here's Section 6011 of the law, the general requirement of return statement or list. Paragraph A, general rule. Any person made liable for any tax imposed by this title or with respect to the collection thereof shall make a return. This implies that there are people who are liable and people who are not liable, and that there is more than one tax in the law. There's many taxes, actually. The dirty little secret is, according to courts, quote, a state may not impose a charge for the enjoyment of a right granted by the federal Constitution. That was Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, about 1943. The 16th Amendment did not give Congress any new authorization for any new sources of tax revenue. Article 1, Section 8 is the authorization, the constitutional authorization for congressional taxation. The 16th Amendment did not give Congress any more taxing power than they already had, according to multiple Supreme Court decisions. Stanton versus Baltic Mining Company in 1916, quote, the 16th Amendment conferred no new power of taxation. Quote, the individual, unlike the corporation, cannot be taxed for the mere privilege of existing. The corporation is an artificial entity which owes its existence and charter powers to the state. But the individual's rights to live and own property are natural rights for the enjoyment of which an excise cannot be imposed. Redfield versus Fisher, 1930. Quote, the 16th Amendment must be construed in connection with the taxing clauses of the original Constitution and the effect attributed to them before the amendment was adopted. Eisner versus McComber, 1920, I guess. Quote, liability for taxation must clearly appear. Higley versus CIR, circa 1934. Quote, where the construction of a tax law is doubtful, the doubt is to be resolved in favor of those upon whom the tax is sought to be laid. Spreckels Sugar Refining Company versus McLean. And here we have Long versus Rasmussen. Quote, the revenue laws are a code or system and regulation of tax assessment and collection. They relate to taxpayers and not to non-taxpayers. The latter are without their scope, no procedure is prescribed for non-taxpayers, and no attempt is made to annul any of their rights and remedies in due course of law. With them, Congress does not assume to deal, and they are neither of the subject nor the object of the revenue law. This tells us crystal clearly that there are people whom Title 26 applies and people who Title 26 does not apply to. Section 6020 under Title 26 is the section that the IRS claims it has authority in which to prepare returns on behalf of citizens. returns prepared for or executed by Secretary. Paragraph A. Preparation of return by Secretary. Quote, if any person shall fail to make a return required by this title or by regulations prescribed thereunder, but shall consent to disclose all information necessary for the preparation thereof, then in that case the Secretary may prepare such return, which, being signed by such person, may be received by the Secretary as the return of such person. Now, there's three huge problems here. Number one, I underlined consent to disclose all information necessary. When the IRS goes to assess taxes on your behalf and prepare returns, they don't disclose. They don't get your consent to disclose the information. Number two, the Secretary may prepare such return. Is the IRS the Secretary? No, the IRS is a private corporation. The Secretary is a reference to the Secretary of the Treasury, I guess, and in their absence, it would probably be some government bureaucrat, some agent. The IRS is not a government agency. So that's their second violation of the law when they go to assess taxes on your behalf if you don't file. Third problem here is that we have, I underlined, being signed by such person. I have never, since 2008, signed a tax return, but the IRS goes and prepares them anyway. But here's the smoking gun evidence that the IRS is a totally unlawful entity. OMB numbers. Here's an article from the Give Me Liberty website, givemeliberty.org. 1040 checkmate. DOJ dismisses felony tax prosecution with prejudice after Paperwork Reduction Act defense raised. DOJ begged the courts to dismiss all charges against IRS victim Robert Lawrence in federal district court. Here's the four main points of this very important tax case. The Paperwork Reduction Act law protects those that fail to file IRS bootleg Form 1040. The Department of Justice knew that it stood a significant chance of losing the case, and if that happened, the press and others would quickly spread the word and leave only fools to ever file a 1040 again. Oscar Stilley's pleadings, the lawyer, and documents made these points quite clear. IRS Form 1040 violates the Federal Paperwork Reduction Act and is therefore a legally invalid form. Under the Public Protection Clause of the PRA, no person can be penalized for failing to file a 1040 if the IRS fails to fully comply with the PRA. The PRA statutes explicitly provide that a PRA challenge is a complete defense and can be raised in any administrative or judicial proceeding. And point number 4, the IRS individual Form 1040 has not and cannot comply with the requirements of the PRA because no existing statute authorizes the IRS to impose or collect the federal income tax from individuals. That lack of bona fide authority makes it impossible for IRS to avoid violating the Paperwork Reduction Act. That is why I bold, underscore, and italicize the Secretary in Section 6020 of the law. The Secretary has authorization to prepare returns. The IRS does not. The IRS does not have authorization to generate their own forms. If you look on Form 1040 or any other IRS form, it says very plainly IRS form so-and-so. That is unlawful. Okay, they have to comply with the Paperwork Reduction Act. I haven't filed Form 1040 or had employers withhold unspecified federal income tax since 2009. Oh, look, it's 2015 and I'm not in jail. 2008, I claimed line 7 on my Form W-4 and filed returns for $0 in taxable income. I got all the money withheld in federal and state income taxes refunded, no questions asked, no letters, nothing. just a couple federal and state checks from the treasuries. 2009, I did the same thing, and the IRS put up a stink. An epic battle ensued that lasted 4 years. I eventually paid both federal and state tax. Recently I filed Form 483 for a refund of penalties and interest for their fraudulent collection action and an administrative remedy claim with their IRS advisory office for a refund of the tax itself. That's the first step in a federal court claim. If they reject the claim, I go to a federal district court to settle this. 2010 fell through the cracks. I paid no federal tax but paid the state. And 2011 is currently being fought over right now, about to go to court. Nothing has been paid yet. For 2012, 2013, 2014, just federal returns unlawfully filed by the IRS on my behalf without my consent or signature, in total violation of Section 6020. Between the cessation of federal income tax withholding or filing and the avoidance of the immoral sick insurance ruse, my total net savings, not including 2015, has amounted to over $18,500 in the aggregate so far, including 2015, and with a strong chance of adding to that if my 2009 claims get approved. I will exceed $21,000 in total savings easily. You can pay a lot of healthcare claims with that much money. You can get yourself a lot of clean, organic food for $22,000 and live a lot better lifestyle. Live better and look better and feel better. Where in 2008 and previous years, I took home 73 to 77% of my paycheck. Since 2008, I take home now 86 to 92% of paychecks. Should be 100%, but that's Subtitle C. Subtitle C employees are typically liable for. It's totally unconstitutional, but it was passed decades after the original Title 26, and which was the beginning of the unconstitutional era in our country. So that's a whole different can of worms, Subtitle C. But there's a big difference between the two, Subtitle A and Subtitle C. Big difference between 73% and taking home 92% of your paycheck. That's a 19% difference or raise overnight. You want health freedom? You want freedom from Obamacare and health insurance corporations, big pharma, the IRS? Here's a checklist of what you're going to do. Number 1, have faith. Trust yourself. Trust Supreme Court decisions. Trust the law. Number 2, download my exhibits and correspondences and arguments with the IRS from my website, letmybodygo.com. That's at no cost. Link to that in the description box. Read them good, along with the 2 best books on the subject, The Truth About the Income Tax and The Best Kept Secret. Both are included in the downloads. Number 3, file Form 1040X amended federal returns for the last 3 tax years at $0 gross income or taxable income, assuming you really are a U.S. citizen and have no liability to any of the taxes listed in Title 26. Get a bunch of your hard-earned money returned to you. If necessary, use that return to file amended state returns. Number 4, claim line 7 on Form W4 with your employer to stop withholding. They may or may not see state withholding, depends. If they don't, you can simply file a $0 federal and state return and get state withholding returned. Number 5, if and when the IRS illegally files Form 1040 on your behalf without your consent, sends you a bunch of correspondence and refuses to listen to your demand for liability and pursues unlawful collections for the next 2 to 5 years, pay the tax, and immediately, number 6, file Form 483 to get penalties and interest refunded. And then number 7, file an administrative claim to get the unspecified federal income tax refunded. Off their IRS website, section 25.3.3.9, damages, civil cause of action for unauthorized collection action. And number 8, if the deceptive frauds at the IRS reject, number 7, file a claim in federal district court claiming a refund in violation of your civil right to exist and work, and tack on $10,000 if you feel like it. When the IRS corresponds and gives you an opportunity to object to their assessments, send them the arguments in my exhibits. Send them the arguments I presented here, and do not talk to them like they are your overlords. Talk to them like they are public servants. Be stern, be forceful with them, threaten them. Do not be afraid of them. Don't be timid. I even got an IRS agent to question my liability. Quote, even if you are not liable, unquote. These guys do not know the law. They get stumped. One time I had them pass a letter to 3 offices before I got a response about my liability. And all that response included was a form letter and a pamphlet which said that you can contest liabilities in the courts. It's high time we get these deceptive fraud leeches out of our pocketbook. Tell them you are done being eluded. You're done with the deception. You're done with the Marxist media psychological operations, or psyops. You're done with the Wesley Snipes propaganda, which, by the way, some things they conveniently don't mention about Wesley Snipes and his tax problems. Number one, Wesley Snipes was acquitted of multiple charges. Number two, he most likely had a corporation that was liable for a bunch of taxes. Okay, he was ignorant in his battles, so he was liable. But they don't like context and citizen favorable news in the media. Do not take this tax stuff to your professionals. Don't take it to your CPAs, your tax attorneys. They are nothing but hacks. They are nothing but establishment hacks. All they know is procedure and form. All they're going to do is throw the tax protester label on you. You've got to trust yourself. Get completely healthy by reading my books about health and wellness, how your body works, learn how food relates to your body for less than half the cost of a McDonald's value meal. Stop eating dead, hyperfattening frankenfood. You must consume nutrient-dense muscle fuel. Consume 3 squares per day. Eat more, not less, to maintain your energy and muscles. I've seen it so many times over the last 8 years with many people, particularly girls. They tend to eat less when they gain weight, and then they eat less and less, and then they exercise, and then they end up in the hospital with all kinds of health problems, even mental disorders. I mean, you got to kick these stupid calorie and carb restriction myths to the curb. All right, enough with the stupid grilled chicken salad myth. It's not healthy. I show you how to save buckets of money on garbage food and useless supplements. There's useless supplements and there's useful supplements. My book, Eat Clean, Look Clean, goes into all this. You must get on a hydrogen and alkaline-based diet, an energy-based diet. Hydrogen is energy, and it's an antioxidant. Ditch sick insurance. I call it that because it really does ensure that you stay sick when you're on it, when you have this perceived safety net. It is not a safety net, it's just a perception of a safety net. Insurance corporations are getting pickier, less coverage, higher rates, so you're not guaranteed your claims are going to get paid anymore. But no, when you perceive you have the safety net there, you're going to do whatever you want with your health. Whereas me, I don't have health insurance, and I take very good care of my health and never end up in the doctor's office. And I save a ton of money and pay cash if I ever do have to go in. And get ready to correspond with the fools and lawless criminals at the IRS who don't know their own law. Other patriots haven't filed returns in years. I'm not the only one that does this. I have a friend named John. He hasn't filed in years. He got the IRS off his back years ago, decades ago. He just gave them the same arguments I presented right here. He said, I don't have any revenue taxable activity, and they left him alone. So that's how to avoid Obamacare, the individual mandates and the penalties, how to get free from the federal income tax, the unspecified income tax, how to get perfectly healthy and avoid sick insurance and big pharma. Get my books, Eat Clean, Look Clean, the Diet and Nutrition Super Manual, the Weight Control Diet and Nutrition Super Manual, um, Fire Your Doctor, How to Not Get Sick Ever, seriously, How I Cured My Chronic Pain and Digestive Problems, I think that's what it's called, and How I Cured Chronic Acne. Fire the IRS, get educated, learn how to prove all things in life, like the good book says. Learn how to see through smoke and mirrors, the Marxist media, propaganda, politicians, ignorant friends, and family members. Oh, and read my other book, The Church Model, How to Grow Wealth and Your Church. Get access to thousands of dollars when needed. I go to Churches of Christ who practice first century Christianity. I have full access to tens of thousands of dollars if necessary. They've already given me thousands of dollars in just the last year, about $3,000, I'd say. No strings attached, no questions. The church should be your insurance. Uh, so not only did I save $18,500, I was given $3,000 because I was unemployed for most of 2014. It's time to get back to basics, folks. Get back to the way it was 100 years ago in this country. You want your freedom? This is how you're going to do it. This is how to get free physically, financially, mentally, and spiritually. You want real freedom? It's only, and by all means, subscribe to my channel, like, share this video, rate this video, spread it like wildfire. Um, like I always say, I have good information coming down the pipe. This is a classic case. You're gonna want to stay tuned to this channel. This is your nexus for the truth about practically everything in life that matters, at least. Follow me on Facebook, Let My Body Go, facebook.com/Let My Body Go, Twitter, twitter.com/ at Body Mechanic 7, and have yourself a positive and energy filled day.